Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else that hopefully ends with a satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time they are introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they are a hero or a villain and whether they are a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. For reference, we are only going to be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea about what happens in those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us, and with that, the patrons get to vote every single month on what story video I should make from seasons we have previously covered. This video was selected and created back in December of 2022. If you want to pick what story videos I make and watch them all up to 6 months early, then consider joining them on Patreon. It is a completely optional way to support the channel that keeps us free from sponsors and advertisers. Now with that,
42 days, 16 people, 1 survivor.
Jerri Manthey, a 29-year-old aspiring actress from Los Angeles, California, was a castaway in Survivor's second season, Survivor: The Australian Outback. This season starts off with a bang. Both tribes are in Australia, and the show now has a big budget, unlike in Borneo. Cameramen are everywhere, and these players all saw Borneo, the birth of alliances, and how America responded to Richard Hatch winning, and they ripped him to shreds at the same time for his strategy and personality. Keep this in mind because it will affect a lot of how these players treat each other and talk to the camera, except Jerri. Right away, we see she is on the Ogakor tribe, and both them and Kucha need to grab their survival supplies and hike a long ways to their camp. No nice beach or island here. This is the Outback. Ogakor does get to their camp first, and the first thing we directly hear from Jerri is,
when we got to our camp, I was considering at that point anything and everything anybody was doing or saying as a strategic move.
A bit extreme, but she is on the right track. Everything is a game move, whether it's intentional or unintentional. But not moments later, her strong personality and opinions get in the way of making a good first impression with the other players.
The tension between Keith and I think him and I kind of rubbed each other the wrong way. Keith and I didn't start off on a very good foot just because of some of the condescending remarks he made to me, and he might very well not even be aware that he does it, but I'm not the kind of person to just let it slide off my back.
We then see them all try to make a fire with no success, as Jerri does play her bongo drums that she brought as her luxury item as a rhythm for the fire making while she laughs. And by the way, she laughs a lot. Nervous or genuine depends on the situation, but she does this constantly, and I'm not going to keep track of every time she does it, just know she's doing it a lot. But at the immunity challenge, Ogakor wins, and that is all for the premiere. The first impression the show is giving us about Jerri is how she is a central figure to her tribe, and so far hasn't made any good relationships that we have seen. But she claims to be strategically thinking about this game right away, which is something we don't see from too many other players this season. We shall see if she gets into a good alliance and right the ship on her relationship with Keith. But for now, Episode 2 starts off with everyone having fun and bonding together at the quote-unquote family whirlpool, as Marilyn calls it. Everyone except for Kel, that is. He is off fishing all by himself, and he's by himself a lot. But apparently, despite how much time he spends dedicated to this essential skill to get them food, Jerri says,
He's not a fisherman, obviously. Should keep his day job.
A bit harsh. It's not like she's caught anything, but okay. We then see Amber and Tina say, wow, despite Keith being a professional chef, he sucks at making rice. Keep in mind, Amber and Tina say this first, but Jerri agrees and decides to take matters into her own hands quite literally, as she makes tortillas with the flour they have, and despite recognizing that Keith feels threatened by this since he is literally a professional chef and he prides himself on that, she goes, I want good food, so who cares? But then something strange happens, something that we never see any definitive proof for, so either there is no footage of it, or the show wants to make the accuser look like a liar. You decide.
I am very disappointed at what happened 5 minutes ago. Jerri reported to the rest of us that she had seen Cal chewing a brown substance, what she thought was beef jerky.
Jerri blatantly said that she saw something look just like beef jerky go into his mouth, and I believe her, actually.
I saw him chewing, but you saw him chewing too.
I mean, to have your own team member possibly be holding food behind you and surviving on their own little private stash while the rest of us are starving, basically, is not a good way to start off on the right foot with a bunch of strangers.
He had beef jerky and killing dead.
Look, while I was going up there looking for bait for fishing, you guys were talking about that you thought I was eating beef jerky during that. What I had was a blade of grass and I smushed it up into my jaw and I was chewing on that. I was just chewing grass.
Well, in order to put grass in your mouth, you have to go get grass first. And I don't think you get grass out of your pocket.
It looks like normal grass, okay? It just looks like a normal blade of grass. I just find it really comical that you would think I would do that.
I think it's pretty comical.
I've got 3 blades out here. The girls can use one blade, the guys can use the other blade. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
He suddenly, at that point, offered his razor. And I think that that's the hugest sign of guilt, is to give to the people who have just accused you of something that is very serious.
That's what I think Marilyn was kind of upset at us.
Yeah.
Now, the show never confirms or denies Kel with beef jerky publicly either, and it won't confirm or deny it within this season. So Jerri is left hanging. She's just hanging out to dry. At the immunity challenge, Tina loses it for them, and back at camp, talks arise of who should go first. Colby says Jerri is an option since many see her as stubborn and unforgiving. Not good traits, I would say. But at Tribal Council, while looking like a clone of Jeff Probst with the clothes, Kel is voted out 7-1 for basically being all by himself.
Kel, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 3 sees Ogakor winning reward, and back at camp, Jerri catches the fish and says, wow, this is easy. Kel must have really sucked to not be able to catch anything. We then briefly hear Marilyn's thoughts on the tribe and who she likes and who she doesn't like, with Jerri being the sole person that falls into the doesn't like category. But that isn't the case for Colby, as him and Jerri are really hitting it off, and I think some Marvin Gaye music here would be quite appropriate.
You like crunchy peanut butter or cream?
Crunchy.
Gotta have crunchy.
Yeah.
There could be something going on between Jerri and Colby. I mean, from the very first day, she told me how cute she thought he was. And at first, she didn't think that he liked her. And I was like, Jerri, it's only the second day.
I'd really like it if Colby and I got together. He's exactly my type. Plus, he's a cowboy, and I'm such a sucker for cowboys.
Oh, Jerri. Jerri and I are getting along great. Every day, we have more fun flirting with each other and seeing how far we can kind of push it.
I must say, the future irony of Amber saying not to worry about whether a guy likes you on day one is just, it's too perfect. We then see day turn to night, and once again, the Marvin Gaye music should be on here because Jerri is massaging the Colbster, that's what he calls himself. We then get back-to-back confessionals, first with Colby, who says it is possible Jerri could be playing him and trying to deceive him, followed by Jerri saying, if need be, I am voting Colby out. Ogakor goes on to lose immunity again, and Jerri says, I am good with Mitchell, Amber, Colby, and Tina on my side. But then at Tribal Council, when Jeff asks, who is Jerri close with?
In my ability to bond with Amber and Mitchell and Colby in particular.
Huh, why didn't she mention Tina there? Or give the diplomatic answer of being good with everyone. The more Jerri speaks, the more I think she may be talking before fully thinking through what she's going to say and the possible repercussions. But in the meantime, Marilyn is voted off 5-1.
Mad Dog, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 4 starts off fairly predictably with Tina being annoyed at Jerri. I think a lot more of this has to do with Jerri leaving Tina out to dry at Tribal Council when mentioning who she is close with, but that could just be me reading into things. We get a very, very one-sided narrative of how Tina and Keith woke up, prepared to take the canoe out, but then Jerri and Mitchell woke up and took it out before they could. It seems like a very simple misunderstanding with a harsh focus on making Jerri look bad instead of the actual truth, which is that no one is clearly communicating with anyone else. Tina then says, the young people are really bonding together, and I don't fall into the young people category. So I need to get with Keith and flip one of the young people to my side to even have a chance, ideally 2 people, or I'm gonna be gone next. So Tina goes full villain in a way that leaves her unscathed.
And you all realize that you're nothing to Jerri. She said, I'm in it to win. And, she's gonna do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah.
And it's like she has to have her way.
Yeah.
And I am so over it, I just can't hardly stand it. I'm sorry, she's the most bossy, domineering person I've ever met.
My thought was, if I could get Colby, that would be 2 of us. And then maybe Colby could talk to Amber. And that would be the only chance that I would have to make it.
Wow, how utterly manipulative, which makes for a great strategic move, but does show Tina to be a hypocrite. We then see Colby have enough of the fighting between these 2 ladies, and he sits in the water and talks to his buddy Keith, who says Jerri is not good enough for Colby, which puts a smile on the Colbster's face. What a great manipulative move by Keith too. This is terrible for Jerri though. Jerri then senses Colby's kind of drifting away from her and is becoming more and more distant. So she decides to have a talk with him and do her best to swing him back to her.
I'm not saying I'm holding out on making a deal with you to see how this thing plays out. I'm saying there's no sense in even making a deal, because if we go into the merge undermanned, it's all for naught,
Don't worry about it. It's not like you're making a deal with the devil here. And I like hanging out with you, so it just made sense to me to approach you with it.
Make you a deal. It's me, you, and Amber. Do the deal.
Jerri proudly wears a name tag that says Puppet Master on it. She loves having Amber in her hip pocket and Mitchell in the same place. I mean, I simply agreed to go along with him just because I thought it could get me down the road a little better.
Oh man, the story here is laying it on thick. Is Jerri the devil? Not even close. Does the show want you to think she is? Absolutely. The show is being as manipulative as Tina was earlier. We see Colby carrying her across the river, and at the immunity challenge, they lose again. That's 3 immunity losses in a row. They need a massive turnaround before the merge. Otherwise, Cooch is just going to pick them off one after another. There is a struggle for Colby's vote, as Keith and Tina want him badly on their side, and Jerri and Amber and Mitchell think they already have him in the bag. So at Tribal Council,
first vote. Keith. Mitchell. We have a tie. In the Survivor rules, in a deadlock, you go to votes cast in previous tribal councils. How many votes have you had cast against you, Keith?
None.
Mitchell?
1.
1. 1 vote is the difference. In a long vote, Mitchell, the tribe has spoken.
Wow, Colby flipped. While not unexpected for us as an audience, this is a big surprise for Jerri, who thought they were still good. In episode 5, she talks to him about aligning with her again, and he lies and plays the "I'm only voting for the tribe, whatever makes the tribe stronger" shtick, instead of being honest about the fact that, yeah, he's aligned with Tina and Keith now. If you don't believe me yet about the show wanting you to think that Jerri is dumb and a villain while she isn't dumb at all, and not even that villainous, we get a 2-minute long scene where Keith and Jerri have a disagreement about whether to bury dead fish or just drop them back in the river. Is this worth 2 minutes of a 40-minute episode? I don't think so, as it essentially comes down to Jerri saying, let's bury it so we don't get any poisonous smells from the fish, which, by the way, we're downwind of, and Keith says, let's just dump them in the ocean and let the other fish eat them. Now, a quick Google search says that Jerri is right, and what Keith is proposing would poison the food supply in the river, but the show 100% takes Keith's side on this. It's a bit insane. But other than that, this is a fairly quiet episode for Jerri, as her tribe wins immunity. So in episode 6, we see Amber craving food, and Jerri says, I am also craving food. But as it turns out, that means something very different for her.
I just at some point have to get my hands on some chocolate. I fear I might go psycho. And I'm not kidding.
I had a discussion with Colby regarding chocolate.
and how chocolate releases the same endorphins that sex does. And since none of us are having sex, that's probably why we keep reverting to the chocolate discussions. I'm gonna bathe myself in chocolate. That's like my ultimate fantasy right now. Right now, I can actually, in my wildest fantasy, picture pouring hot chocolate all over some hot dude's bod and having sex while licking it off at the same time.
She's using her thoughts of chocolate to substitute for her thoughts of sex. I may be a lot of things, but I ain't no Hershey bar.
So far, there have been 3 fights between Keith and Jerri over food. Essentially, it's all boiled down to Keith being unskilled and Jerri being incapable of being nice about helping the food be better. But it now has become so petty that they are squabbling over fried green tomatoes.
It just would help if you weren't quite so pessimistic about ideas that other people have other than your own.
Pessimistic. I'm not picking on you about your tomatoes.
You already did on the way here. You said, I don't think that can be done.
That's good. Well, then this will be good. We got fried green tomatoes. Keith is a chef, man. You don't have to insult the guy by telling him he doesn't know what he's talking about. I think it's disrespectful and rude, and that's what Jerri loves to do because she knows it's going to ruffle his feathers.
You gotta leave it in there.
Stop it! Both of you! Or you're going to timeout. Jerri makes me feel uncomfortable. You know, you're always walking on eggshells around her. And it's just no fun living in that type of situation.
At the reward challenge, the entire tribe is blindfolded and they must follow Jerri's direction in order to succeed. And despite being inches, and I do mean inches away from winning, they fail. And I gotta say, it is hard to tell if this is due to bad direction on Jerri's part or Amber's inability to listen well, because they had this. They were in the lead and they blew it at the last second. Either way, the Kolbster is mad.
Kucha! You all have no idea how close that was.
Yes!
Thank you. I needed that.
But all of this is small potatoes next to a big event in this episode that will shape Survivor forever and set in stone that, yeah, this is real and the show is not holding these players' hands. As Mike Skupin on the Kucha tribe falls into the fire and burns the skin off of his hands. It is a long, scary scene that goes down as a watermark moment for the show. However, Ogakor is just told that an accident happened with no details attached. Strange. We move on to episode 7, where we see a late night strategy talk over at Kucha, who say that, yeah, our first 2 targets, Colby and then Jerri.
If I had to vote right now, I'd vote Colby and I'd vote Jerri next.
It's got to be Jerri and Colby first.
Both tribes then get a note saying the merge is coming soon, and Ogakor decides that we need to stay mum on who has received votes in the past in case of a tie, and here's why. As we saw earlier, a tie comes down to past votes. Jerri has 2 past votes and Keith has 5. So those 2 do not need to be in the crossfire for Kucha. Jerri says, I will do my best not to speak ill of my arch nemesis Keith in front of them for strategic purposes, of course. But then it happens. With both tribes down to 5 players each, they merge.
Here's a toast to your efforts and the second half of the game.
Open it.
The merge feast is going oh so well. That is until Jeff Varner, notorious pot stirrer from the Kucha tribe, says he noticed Colby and Jerri going off, talking strategy while pointing out who on Kucha they wanted out. Is this true? I have no idea since the show never shows this happening and no confessional is ever given to counter it. But anyways, the new merge tribe, Barramundi, are forced to build a new camp at a new location. That's a lot of new. There's a small debate whether to build it higher up under the trees or down below on the soft, dry riverbed. Jerri says,
I think on the beach right there in the shade.
Let's go down there and take a look.
All right, let's look.
My idea was to originally build the hut up in the trees where you got some good anchors. Then the girls said they would like to stay down on the sand because it sleeps better.
Despite Roger saying the women all wanted it down below, we are only shown Jerri saying this. Curious. At the immunity challenge, either Jerri or Keith needs to win in order to keep them safe against a possible tie. While I don't understand logically, I do understand emotionally this next moment when Jeff says, hey, if you drop, I'll give you ice cream and chocolate, and Jerri definitely drops right away. Run, Colby, run! However, Tina drops and lets Keith take immunity, which is the second best option for their tribe and their alliance. With an immunity challenge that lasted nearly 11 hours, they head off to tribal council and there they vote. And
First vote.
Colby. Jeff. Colby. Jeff. Colby. Jeff. Colby. Jeff. One for Jeff. That's 5. Look at that. One for Colby. Colby, how many votes have you had cast against you?
0.
0. Jeff.
1 that I know of.
Enough. Jeff, the tribe has spoken.
The Ogakor tribe are now in the clear. With a 5-4 lead heading into episode 8, this season could play out very predictably. We shall see about that. Jerri needs to be strongly considering who she wants to sit next to in the final 2. Who is someone the jury is going to like less than herself? We then see Tina say that this season, unlike in Borneo, she wants to see the good guys get to the end and win. It doesn't matter which tribe they're from, which by the way is a bunch of crap, but that's for her video. You can watch Tina's video if you really want to get the logistics of what she's doing here, because she's obviously placing herself in that good guys camp despite being one of the best players here because she's so manipulative, but like in a good way. I'm respecting her. We then immediately cut to Jerri hammering with some weird ominous music right after Tina says the good guy bit, and Jerri says, I have a weird feeling right now. We then cut back to Tina saying all season Jerri has been a real controlling overlord when it comes to how the rice is cooked.
The rice has to be cooked to Jerry's specifications. It has to be stirred a certain number of times, the lid has to stay on, it has to be perfect, you know, or you catch it.
Alicia and I were on the side of the fire, and Jerri and Amber were sitting on the log just watching every move we made. Every time I would take a lid off, I could see them, you know, tensing up, like, oh, you know, why is she taking the lid off? Why is she stirring now? Alicia and I were getting more tense, trying to make it. You know, we were testing the rice. We always tested to make sure it's done, and Jerri's over on her log. It's mushy, she says.
I try to stay away from cooking so I don't have to be judged.
I want to point out that scene, while I did shorten it, lasts for 3 whole minutes. 3 minutes out of a 40-minute episode. They really take their time to paint Jerri as the villain. Any chance they get. Jerri's bad. Don't think for yourself, let the show tell you. Jerri's bad. Did you know she's bad? Because I didn't know she was bad, but well, Jerri's really bad. No one else is a villain, only Jerri. It is so painfully obvious to everyone else that Elizabeth says this rift between Tina and Jerri can easily be taken advantage of for Cooch's benefit. However, Jerri wins the individual reward challenge and takes Amber with her, and with that comes a sigh of relief from everyone else as they are jealous of the reward, but like that they get time without Jerri.
It was kind of funny because everyone else kind of felt like we won the reward. Everyone kind of vented about how they feel about Jerri, and it was an eye-opener to some people. I knew it.
Let's see, I've cooked for 2 presidents, I've cooked for all kinds of people.
Have you really?
And I've never, ever been stressed, other than these last so many days.
Isn't that weird?
Never been stressed.
I can't believe that.
Over cooking rice.
Over rice.
Is Jerri getting voted out this episode? Because as I said earlier, almost every minute not dedicated to a challenge seems to be dedicated to dumping on Jerri. Did you know Jerri's bad? Heck, when Jerri comes back from reward, she tries to talk some strategy with Colby, aka Mr. Texas, aka the morally right man, aka the guy people will name their children after when the season airs, and he lies to her, but it's justified in his eyes.
Even leading Keith and Tina to believe that you want the 3 of them to be the final 3?
Keith and Tina?
Yeah.
And myself?
Have you ever thought maybe...
Well, they're fully convinced that's what's going to happen.
Oh, they are?
I mean, they've thought that
for a while.
Before the merge, yeah. So the inevitable came. I was painted into a corner and had to lie to her to convince her that there wasn't anything going wrong. And I just said, look, Jerri, Keith owes me one on this. He and Tina think that the 3 of us are going in to the finals, which is the truth, but Jerri thinks it's just a ploy. I didn't like the fact that I had to lie, but because I was lying to Jerri, I didn't lose sleep over it.
So at Tribal Council, I genuinely don't know what to expect as everyone goes to vote, and...
First vote. Jerri. Jerri. Very muscular.
Who said that?
Alicia. Jerri. Jerri. Alicia. 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 Alicia, you need to bring me your torch. Alicia, tribe has spoken. time for you to go.
We move on to episode 10, since episode 9 is just a recap that has no bearing on the story being told, and they all get a note that says pick partners for the reward challenge, and Elizabeth says let's draw out of a hat, and Jerri says no.
You don't want to put a little pet? No. I think I should pick.
Who would you pick?
I'd pick Colby. Well, duh. Who wouldn't? Well, the whole thing is, when did this game start being fair? No, but I think it is about teammanship. So how are we going to do it, Colby?
I've got all the guys' names written on a piece of paper.
The girls pick.
Well, look at them.
Colby.
There we go.
That's funny.
Oh, there we go. That's not bad. Ready to rock?
Okay, I will hand it to the show. This was 100% on Jerri. Her and Colby do win, so obviously a good call on wanting him as her partner, and they get to fly to the Great Barrier Reef. Colby right at the gate says, hey, on this reward we're having no strategy talk, and Jerri doesn't care. She's with the Colbster. Add some chocolate and things are gonna escalate for her. She even says that winning back-to-back reward challenges has to be creating jealousy with the others, but who gives a rip what they think. While on said reward, this means a lot more to Jerri than it does to Colby.
Here we are in the middle of the Great Barrier Reef. It was just too close to paradise. The setting, it was very, very romantic on top of everything else. I even looked at him at one point and I was like, this is one hell of a first date, Colby. I couldn't have come out here with a better person than Colby. We're having a great time. We're getting to know each other outside of the game and outside of that environment. This is basically the perfect honeymoon without the sex.
Jerri was quite giddy on our little getaway. She made a comment to me about it being a honeymoon without the sex, and it couldn't be farther from the truth for me. I mean, we certainly didn't sit around and high five and say, man, we finally get our time alone together. It's not what I was looking for. I was just looking for some downtime away from the game, and that's what I got.
Upon returning back from the reef, Colby brings everyone some illegal Barrier Reef gifts. I say illegal because it is illegal to take any part of the reef away from it with you, but to be fair, he has no idea about this. I'm not counting it against him. Jerri's like, crap. I think Colby might be more liked than me right now by the others.
Colby's little shell maneuver was most definitely strategy. For me, in a perfect world, it'll be me and him sitting up there in front of the jury. I find him and myself to be the most even on the playing field, more than anybody else here. And so now, because of that little maneuver, I'm thinking he's got one up on me for sure.
She only thinks this now? This just goes to show how out of touch she is with how the other players view her. We then hear Nick of the original Kucha tribe say, I need to win immunity or it's my head tonight. And at the immunity challenge, he pulls it off. So who's next? Jerri says Elizabeth is the next in line from the Kucha tribe. So at tribal council,
First vote. Elizabeth. Elizabeth. Jerri. Jerri. 2 votes Elizabeth, 2 votes Jerri. 3 votes Jerri. 4 votes Jerri. 5 votes Jerri. That's enough.
Checkmate, you guys got me.
Jerri, tribe has spoken.
wait, what? Hold on, let's rewind. At what point did Ogakor decide to foolishly flip on themselves here at this point in the game and leave the door open for Amber just to flip over to the Kucha side and ruin their entire game? This was the wrong point in time to vote out Jerri. Someone had to be the dissenting voice on this, right? Well, right before Tribal, this conversation takes place.
So there is one other alternative, so we can eliminate Jerri. I mean, we're stuck with it for today. Well, none of us wanted that. None of us. I'm sorry, but we're talking about a lot of money. No, I understand that. Keith, listen to what you just said. Why would we allow that possibility to even come to fruition when we've got an opportunity right now to keep things going exactly the way they are, and then get rid of Jerri as soon as we can? And boy, do I want to. Man, I hadn't put up with her all day yesterday. I can't imagine getting rid of Elizabeth over her, but I know, and it's just my gut tells me it's the right move.
So let's break this down. How was Jerri as a character? I gotta say, I love Jerri on the season. She herself was a clearly fun-loving lady who didn't understand what people thought about her and how not to grate on the nerves of those she was around. She constantly laughed and delivered many entertaining moments. However, the Jerri the story portrayed was selfish, rude, inconsiderate, and worst of all, a bad guy who's playing just for herself to win the $1 million and not for everyone else. How despicable. But why? My guess as to this storytelling choice for her is because the season lacks a villain, and everyone knows a good story needs a good opposing force of some kind for your hero. And Jerri was kind of the only one available for that role. She annoyed enough people that the show could lean into that angle hard, and they took advantage by really not giving you her side of things unless her side of things were met with ominous music or editing that told you that, yeah, Jerri's evil. Because nothing she truly did was villainous, just annoying depending on your perspective. You could say that Kel didn't have beef jerky and therefore her accusation was evil. That's about the only thing. But the story doesn't want you to think she's just annoying. They want you to think that she's evil. Why else did they pinpoint Jerri as the one who wanted Camp to be on the beach when Roger says all the women wanted this? That is because in episode 12,
Oh gosh.
We have barely any
Oh gosh.
out of 20 character moments shown on the show, 4 were heroic and 16 were villainous, making Jerri Manthey a villain on Survivor the Australian Outback. Now, how is Jerri as a strategist? While the editing can make Jerri a villain, I think the show does a good job on pretty much being true to her strategic game. She was oblivious to what the others really thought about her, which is why her thinking Colby is equal to her up until the Barrier Reef moment is perfect. It's a perfect encapsulation of how she viewed herself. The only people she ever really aligned with was Amber and Mitchell. However, despite not being able to read the others, Jerri herself was clearly smart. She focused on it more as a game, and I think that is what makes her returning for later seasons so interesting, because she does come back 2 more times. She was ahead of her time and yet behind all at once. Out of 43 strategic moments shown on the show, 20 were smart and 23 were dumb, making Jerri Manthey a dumb strategist on Survivor the Australian Outback. Thank you for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.